Welcome back to Pop Goes the 60s. I'm Matt Williamson, and I want to go over some results. I did my favorite Beatles songs a couple weeks ago, and then I invited you to take a survey and include your favorite Beatles songs. I gave those results, and the results rendered some very interesting comments from people, and it's a couple slightly disturbing ones as well. And you know, when you have a channel like this, you're going to get a couple wackos here and there that just can't handle certain information. And in this case, your favorites, I guess, were a problem for some people. I mean, you would think that this would be as subjective as you can get. It would be you kind of be left alone. Here I wanted to do an easy video. I've got a house I'm selling. I'm remodeling a bathroom. I'm trying to rent another house. Got a huge rummage sale coming up this weekend. I needed something easy. So I thought this would be it, but no, some of the fans reared their ugly heads. And let me remind you, the term fan is short for fanatic. So we always have to keep that in mind. And I'm going to share some of that fanaticism with you here. And this was a response to your favorite Beatles songs. So one of the things that was kind of interesting that I did not see coming at all was that John Lennon dominated the favorites of those who took the survey. And there was about 4,000 songs that were entered in the survey, and Lennon was pretty dominant in the top 50 songs. And some people really had a problem with that, like this person. I'm not going to give the person's name because what they said is embarrassing enough. You can go through the comments if you like. Here's what they said. People on purpose obviously tried to belittle Paul McCartney, which I find really offensive. No way is Rain one of their top 10. Now, first of all, this was not their top 10 best songs. I don't know how this person got that confused with favorites, but people often do. They think that what their favorites are their best songs. And the only criteria they use for the best is that it's their favorite. So this guy is really off the mark. The fact that Rain showed up in the top 10 out of 4,000, well, that's just how it went. That's their favorite, you know. No way is Rain one of them. Yeah, yes way. Yes way it is, apparently. So the minute I saw all top 10, I knew this was biased against McCartney. So here we go, folks. Here we go. I really resent the inflation of Harrison's status following his death. His role in the Beatles, however important, will forever be secondary to that of Lennon and McCartney. What that has to do with anything, I don't know. If you have a favorite Harrison song, you voted for it. And why would somebody resent the inflation of Harrison's status following his death? Isn't that what happens when somebody dies? We memorialize them. And there was a little bit of a blip there for a while. But then, I mean, he's been dead over 20 years. So this person this person doesn't like anybody topping McCartney. And in this survey, by the way, Harrison didn't. Well, he did in the top 10 by one vote. But I guess that was a problem. You could try to make every Lennon song the greatest, and even Harrison's. Don't know how I did that. These were your favorites that you voted for. It won't change the fact that the best-known Beatles songs and the greatest hits and classics were written by McCartney. Oh, really? Talk is cheap. So what I did is what I always do, is we look at the fucking evidence. So here's what we got. So what I did is I made two lists. We're going to look at the singles. So this would be the greatest hits. That would be a hit single. Because if we talk about classics, best known Beatles songs, I mean, classics, that's kind of hard to define, but we're going to work on that in a moment. So let's look at the greatest hits. Now we're going to look at the singles released in the UK. So these are the Beatles singles from the UK. I'm going to go down these very quickly. Love Me Do Paul, Please Please Me John, For Me to You, Paul and John. She Loves You, Paul and John. I Want to Hold Your Hand, Paul and John. Can't Buy Me Love, Paul, A Hard Day's Night, John. I Feel Fine, John. Ticket to Ride, John. Help, John. We Can Work It Out, Paul. Day Tripper, John. Paperback Writer, Paul. Eleanor Rigby, Paul. Yellow Submarine, Paul and John. Strawberry Fields Forever, John. Penny Lane, Paul. All You Need Is Love, John. Hello, Goodbye, Paul. Lady Madonna, Paul. Hey Jude, Paul. Revolution, John. Get Back, Paul. Ballad of John Yoko, John. Something, John. Come Together. I'm sorry, Something, George. Come Together, John. Let It Be, Paul. Okay, so what have we got after all that? 4 collaborations, 11 songs for Paul, 11 songs for John, 1 song for George. That's right down the middle. You can't get more even than that. All right, so let's go to the United States releases. Pretty similar singles, although there were more singles released in the United States. And this will favor Paul a bit because we have Yesterday released as a single and Long and Winding Road. Love Me Do Paul, Please Please Me John, Do You Want to Know a Secret John? She Loves You, Paul and John, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Paul and John, Can't Buy Me Love, Paul, A Hard Day's Night, John, I Feel Fine, John, She's a Woman, Paul. That was a #4 hit in the States. 8 Days a Week, Paul and John, Ticket to Ride, John, Help, John, Yesterday, Paul, We Can Work It Out, Paul, Day Tripper, John, Nowhere Man, that's US only, that's John, Paperback Writer, Paul, Yellow Submarine, Paul and John, Eleanor Rigby, Paul, Strawberry Fields Forever, John, Penny Lane, Paul, All You Need Is Love, John, Hello, Goodbye, Paul, Lady Madonna, Paul, Hey Jude, Paul, Revolution, John, Get Back, Paul, Ballad of John and Yoko, John, Something, George, Come Together, John, Let It Be, Paul, The Long and Winding Road, Paul. So we've got 4 collaborations again. We've got 14 songs going to Paul, 13 to John, 1 to George. So Paul gets a 1-song advantage in the United States, but that's pretty damn close. So what does this person say? It won't change the fact that the best known Beatles songs and their greatest hits and classics were written by McCartney. I mean, it's really sad that people like this allow their biases to just cloud actual statistics. And they're lazy. This is intellectual laziness. They won't do something that any of us can do online. Look these singles up, take a little tell. Yeah, it might take 3 minutes. They don't want to do that. So this idea of classic songs, what songs are Beatle classics? Well, how would you rate a song a classic? Again, that would take some criteria, but one I would say is like, well, if you listen to classic rock radio, most of the Beatles songs, tons of Beatles songs get played on that. I don't see how McCartney would outdo John at all, just because it's so inclusive of Beatles songs. So some of John's classics that were not singles were In My Life, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, If I Fell, A Day in the Life, Norwegian Wood, just to name a few. So I don't know that there would be a disparity one way or the other. It probably would be pretty damn equal. So these kind of comments are not uncommon with channels like mine. And what's interesting is that, as I said earlier, the term fan comes from the term fanatic. And there's more of a fanatical response. And some of these people just have very thin skin. And they cannot take any criticism of their heroes. Now, in this case, there was not even any criticism. This is just favorites of random people wanting to take the survey. And for whatever reason, the fact that there were more favorites of Lennon, somebody suggested, well, this is a Lennon-centric channel. Well, I don't know, maybe it is. That never occurred to me. My favorites, I'd picked 13, and I had more songs from Lennon than McCartney, and it didn't occur to me to try to balance it out. Now, I guess I could have. I could have added like Martha, My Dear, or Penny Lane, 2 songs I love of Paul McCartney's. But I wasn't really thinking that way. So I can't speak for anybody else, but your favorites are your favorites. So let's see what else we got here. We had one guy, Rob Marshall, had said, with Paul writing more hits and this channel leaning towards Beatle nerds who have probably heard those songs over and over, it makes sense why the Lennon appreciation would be a bit stronger. Well, now he's making a mistake here because Paul didn't write more hits. But Beatle nerds, I mean, I think there might be a fatigue factor in some of the big hits. And these favorites, you go deep into the catalog. It makes sense to me that you're going to get a greater number of favorites that aren't the hits from very diehard fans who are intimate, know the Beatles catalog intimately. And I think we see that a bit with the people that took the survey here on my channel. So the problem, people had suggested, let me go back here. If you go to the average Joe, like this person says, or the average fan, that's just going to render whatever songs they can figure out are going to be more the hits, because that's going to be what they're familiar with. If they're just an average fan, they're going to know the songs that are the most popular. So that's brings up another issue and another narrowness, another bias, really. So I don't know how those people that are trying to get McCartney's numbers up, I don't know how you do that. But if you're trying to do that, that would not really be an honest tally of what people's favorites are, then, would it? Here's an interesting quote, comment from Peter Lang. Not to oversimplify or stereotype, I think that a good part of your audience likes digging deeper than it is a good song or not. While they may appreciate it's getting better all the time, they thoroughly enjoy discussing it can't get no worse more. I feel that is why John did better than Paul. A bit surprised how well George songs did, though. So here this person is talking about digging deeper. And, you know, John's songs, I had mentioned this in my initial response. John's songs generally offer a little more depth, lyrical depth, I guess, for some people. I don't know that I quite agree with that, but some people do find that. And, you know, what you get out of a song, you get out of it. Now, this notion of this, here, what's going on here, we see this John versus Paul thing again. It's rearing its ugly head. And I find this, well, to use Aaron Weber's term, a big waste of time. And I find it boring, and I just don't find it very interesting. I prefer to look at the Beatles as a unit, and it's really hard to separate them. People, although, love to do it because that's just how they're wired. And they can't take something for its whole, as its whole. They have to go with a personality that they think that they align with, and that becomes their favorite. And then we get comments like this. I see plenty of YouTubers apologizing and softening their approach, not giving what they really feel for fear of this kind of response. And I've built this channel up on, you know, giving my opinion. And I mean, like I say, I get it from no matter who I criticize. I'm a Harrison hater. I'm a Lennon hater. I'm a McCartney hater. I'm a Ringo Starr hater. You know, really, that's what's called balance, folks. And people don't like balance if it doesn't go to their side of the teeter-totter. So I'm not going to change what I'm doing. And I built following up on offering a different perspective. And this is just an interesting talking point. And I don't really know that it's super interesting, because people's favorites are their favorites. Maybe that would change in a number of years. One thing I'll share with you are my demographics. So when I look into the Google analytics through YouTube, what I find is almost 80% of you are older than me, 90% of you are male, and I've got a 3% viewership ages 18 to 24, and pretty much a 0% viewership below 18. So this is a rather narrow demographic. It's not very diverse at all. But this demographic is one that will know the Beatles catalog really well. So you can pick songs like some of the songs that were chosen in this as favorites. That Means a Lot, I'll Be on My Way, Revolution 9, Not Guilty, What's the New Mary Jane, Sour Milk Sea, Cry for a Shadow. These were all chosen as favorites. The average Joe, as this person requested, or the average Beatle fan may not know any of those songs. So I think it's good that those songs can be included. If anybody's wondering, I did a top 50, and that's about a quarter of the Beatles' output as Beatles. So if you include some of the songs that came out of the anthology, some of the songs that were originally recorded but never released, and then the 3 new songs, that takes the total of Beatles songs over 200. So just because you're not in the top 50, I don't know what's so catastrophic about that. Let me just read for you the next 10 from your favorites on the survey, because it's somewhat interesting. So these are the next 11, because there's a tie here. So number 51, we have Eleanor Rigby. 52, This Boy. 53, I Want to Hold Your Hand. 54, Hello Goodbye. 55, Yesterday. 56, Baby You're a Rich Man. 57, Please Please Me. 58, I Should Have Known Better. 59, I've Just Seen a Face. 60 was tied, You're Gonna Lose That Girl, and The Night Before. So that gets added to the top 50. Those are the top 60. That's roughly 26%, 27%, the top 27% of the Beatles catalog. So that's really still quite, there's a lot of space behind that. So these songs fall all over the place. And some people really took it hard that their song that they thought should have been in that top 50 weren't there. When really, if it's in the top 75, you're still well within the top half of all Beatles songs, because they wrote so many songs. So anyway, it's interesting when I do talk to other YouTubers. These are the things we talk about. We talk about fans. We talk about you guys, actually, quite a bit. And it'd be interesting to do more videos on it, but really, it's a small amount of people that do the name calling and do the trolling and make it difficult for other people, and they give other people a bad name. So those people kind of filter themselves out, and they get so upset that they can't, join other discussions, which is too bad. And as far as McCartney, I do find that he doesn't really need your defending. And it's kind of interesting that McCartney, unfortunately, when he did that book, he commissioned that book by Barry Miles all those years ago. It's called Many Years From Now. That book was designed to revise history a bit. And I will tell you, history needed revision, because prior to that, the only thing we had to tell, the history was told by John Lennon, which also was revisionist. And he doesn't get called out on that. And that's bullshit, by the way, folks. So the way history works, those of you outside the United States may not be Civil War buffs, but this happened through the 100 years following the Civil War, up and down of the bias. Pro-Lincoln, anti-Lincoln, anti-Ulysses S. Grant. Unbelievable shifts. And we see that in the Beatle world as well. And McCartney, though there was revision needed, he probably shouldn't have been the one to do it. It would have been better, and it would have looked better, and it would have probably felt more accurate had other writers did it on their own, which would have happened. I mean, you see a lot of McCartney-centric YouTube channels, podcasts that are hell-bent on defending this guy. I don't know that he needs defending. Yeah, somehow, here I'm going back to one of these comments here. One of the very strange comments was that McCartney, I'm going to quote here, McCartney was the one who made this group great on all levels. He doesn't get the credit for it because unlike all the other three, he had the audacity to have a solo career that was the most successful and could actually hold a concert with only solo material. Give the man his due credit. I mean, I don't understand this at all. McCartney was the one who made this group great on all levels. How does he not get credit? I mean, I don't know who this guy hangs out with, but it's as if, okay, so McCartney had a solo career that was successful. I don't know people that downgrade his Beatle work just because he had a successful solo career. Does that make sense to you? But that's what I'm hearing from this particular, I've actually heard that before. Just because, and I'm going to say this for myself, I am not a fan of McCartney's solo. I'm not a fan of any of their solo careers, to be quite honest. Some stuff here and there I cherry pick. And I don't listen to McCartney after 81. I barely listen to Ringo at all. There was no John after 81. And there barely was any Harrison after 81. So that pretty much, I don't listen to anything after that period. So I kind of have my period. But some fans would think that I should like McCartney stuff, and that they take offense to the fact that I don't want to give too much time to his later period stuff. It's just not my thing. What, I can't say that? So some people have a real problem with that. And I don't have a problem with them liking it. What would I care? But don't tell me I can't critique it, because I should be able to do that. If I want to critique, give my regards to Broad Street, I should be able to do that. And sometimes it's best if you're not a fan to be the one to critique, because you're going to get something. You're going to probably give something that's more honest. All these McCartney channels out there, they're huge fans, and they're going to come with a bias that's going to preach to the choir. Nothing really wrong with that, but it's obvious to some of us on the outside of that bubble. And I think it's perfectly fine to point that out. The people in that bubble disagree. And that is a problem amongst Beatle fans. It's the John versus Paul thing. And this pits one Beatle fan against another. And I just never really, I don't have a favorite. I just don't have a favorite. I've never had a favorite since I was a child. I've been listening to the Beatles since I was 4 years old. Never had a favorite. All right, so I guess I'm going to stop there. I mean, I could go on. There's topics within this video that I touched upon that I may go into more because it's dissecting fans. And since I have got to deal with fans, and I don't have a channel without fans, I think it's worth talking about. And I'm for bridging the gap between the fans who don't get along, actually. But it's going to take a little bit of grace for some of these people to approach the topic with a little more lightheartedness and not such a stringent view of the Beatle world. And I'm finding, just in doing this channel, I've had to broaden my horizons, because I came in with certain ideas that I thought were such or this way or that way, and I was wrong. You know, that's because I'm researching it, and that's because I'm listening to fans. And man, I've had some wonderful comments by fans, and I've gotten whole video topics from fans, from my viewers' comments, and that's really how it should be. And I've had such a good response from all you guys, and I really appreciate it. I don't mind anybody who disagrees with me or disagrees with another fan, but I just ask that the comments continue to be respectful, and they by and large are. There's always a couple outliers here that can't behave, and you know, it happens. But I am going to continue to do what I'm doing, and I just love doing this, and I find that this work gives me great purpose, and you're going to find me doing my best for you guys on future videos here on Pop Goes the 60s.